Ilkay Gundogan's return to Manchester City after just one season at Barcelona was not on our bingo cards. But now that the treble-winning captain is back to the manager who brought out the best in him, it's probably a good time to talk about Gundogan's Mancunian lifestyle, luxury, properties, net worth, and everything in between. Gundogan was born to Turkish parents on the 24th of October, 1990 in Gelsenkirchen, North Rhine-Westphalia. Initially, he was a third-generation immigrant, seeing that his paternal grandfather first moved from Turkey to Germany to work as a miner. Gundogan's father, Irfan, was a truck driver for Eisenbruchstraße, who worked his socks off to provide for the family. Also, he forced Gundogan and his brother to sometimes join him at work during the holidays so that they had an idea of what the real world looked like. Growing up in Gelsenkirchen meant that Gundogan's boyhood affiliation was with Schalke 04. He had a brief spell with the boys team as an 8-year-old, but was forced to take a break from the sport because of growth problems. However, the German would eventually come through VfL Bochum's youth academy before he would later sign for Nuremberg in 2009 at the age of 18. After some fine performances for the club in the Bundesliga, Jurgen Klopp's Borussia Dortmund came calling. And who could have said no to them? Gundogan took time to settle at Dortmund, but once he got going, he became a pivotal member of the squad that won the domestic double and reached the UEFA Champions League final. Now an established player in German football, Gundogan's technical intelligence and tactical versatility was something that was talked about by many legends of the sport, and he mainly thrived in the deep-lying playmaker role. After over 150 appearances across 5 seasons with Dortmund, Gundogan caught the wind of Pep Guardiola's interest in him and went on to sign a 4-year contract at Manchester City for an estimated fee of £20 million. Gundogan was the first player that Pep signed at City, which tells you how highly the manager thinks of him. Gundogan spent 7 seasons with City, playing over 300 games, and either scoring or assisting many clutch goals. Oh, and here's what his trophy cabinet looks like. His final season saw him lift the Premier League, Champions League, and FA Cup, and what we'll never forget was a historical treble campaign for the citizens. Gundogan scored both goals in the FA Cup final against rivals Manchester United in a 2-1 victory at Wembley. Gundogan spent 1 season at Barca and was one of their solid performers with 5 goals and 14 assists. But after Hansi Flick couldn't assure him of a future in the squad, Gundogan reached out to his former employers, and they did not hesitate in welcoming him back with open arms. Zooming over to his international career, Gundogan is closing in on a century of appearances for Germany with just 18 caps to go at the moment. It hasn't always been smooth sailing with Die Mannschaft since his debut in 2011, but there's no denying the respect that Gundogan commands in the dressing room. Taking a closer look at Gundogan's personal life away from football, what do we find? The German married his sweetheart Sarah Arfawi in 2022, and they have one child born in 2023. Gundogan was previously in a relationship with his ex-girlfriend, Sila Sahin, but it didn't work out. His wedding to Sarah was a private ceremony held in Spain and attended by only a few close ones. Sarah, who's a model, often struggled to endear herself to the Etihad faithful because of some harsh comments she made about Manchester. Back in 2022, Sarah complained about the food in the city, saying that she couldn't find a good restaurant. On top of that, she said that there was no good Italian, sushi, or fresh foods, and that everything was just frozen. She further added that the restaurants only focused on making money with drinks rather than quality food. But after relocating to Spain with her husband, Sarah started to miss the city and bemoan the lack of close friends like she once had in Manchester. But now that she's back in Manchester, it's safe to assume that she appreciates the city better and now has a new perspective. But for a player with such a storied career, Gundogan rarely grabs the headlines off the pitch. Most people who come across the German call him a class act. The midfielder, however, attributes his personality, work ethic, and his world to his upbringing as a third-generation Turkish immigrant in Germany. But that doesn't mean he leads a boring life. In fact, Gundogan has an entire section of his Instagram stories dedicated to his lifestyle, where he shows us some picturesque views of his holiday destinations in Jumeirah, Istanbul, Mykonos, and several other places, to name a few. Apart from traveling to exotic destinations with his family, Gundogan also loves watching tennis, and sometimes watches the big tournaments. As someone of Turkish descent, Gundogan has never shied away from his Muslim roots. He's a practicing Muslim and expressed his joy at Qatar hosting the World Cup in 2022. Here's what he said back then. My point of view is now the politics are finished. Qatar is very proud to host the World Cup. It's also the first Muslim country. I come from a Muslim family. The Muslim community is proud. Now it is about enjoying and celebrating football. But there's more to the 2023 German Footballer of the Year. How about we take a look at his properties? Now back in Manchester, the first step was always going to be finding help in getting settled in the city once again. Guardiola's family helped the midfielder to find a home after initially having some struggles with house hunting during the first few weeks in the city. Gundogan still owns the apartment he lived in during his time in Manchester, which is, by the way, next door to Guardiola right at the city center. No doubt, Gundogan's mansion is beautiful and has all the modern features affordable only to the elite. Gundogan's garage is also pimped with insane rides. We already know he has an undying love for Mercedes, so he has a couple of them in his garage. Not sure how many, but take a guess on the figures behind the footballer's net worth. Gundogan is one of the top earners at the Etihad, coming in at the 6th position after Kevin De Bruyne, Haaland, Grealish, Bernardo Silva, and Stones. Gundogan brings home £230,000 every week, which amounts to roughly £12 million a year. At Barcelona, Gundogan was raking in €360,000 weekly and was only behind Lewandowski. Don't forget Ilkay was also involved in multiple businesses, endorsements, and mega brands like Adidas and sponsorships to fund his expensive lifestyle. Doing the math, we expect the midfielder's net worth to be around $40 million. To his credit, Gundogan doesn't spend all the money lavishly. He has been involved in a lot of charity. During the pandemic, he helped to raise cash for Manchester cafes and restaurants affected by the lockdown. He also funded food parcels and thank you packages to nurses in Germany, and then supported the United Nations Refugee Agency. The midfield maestro spent his 30th birthday with a charity working with carers. Gundogan's charitable side often goes under the radar, it must be said. Gundogan rarely gets into controversies, but he once was caught in the middle of an unfortunate situation a couple of years ago. You see, Germany and Turkey's political issues caused a sour relationship with Özil and Gundogan and their Germany fans at times. Since both of them are of Turkish descent, fans sometimes booed them on multiple occasions. And then things took a turn for the worse after Gundogan's car was destroyed by rioters in the streets of Germany. There were suggestions that the attack was a result of Gundogan's photo antics after he and Özil posed with the Turkish President Erdogan. It didn't sit well with many German fans, but those days are well behind us. Just what can we expect from Ilkay Gundogan's second coming? Gundogan turns 34 this month, and he doesn't have too many years left at the top of football. But considering his midfield mastery, vision, and how he dictates play, we might be in for one last magic at the Etihad as City try to defend their Premier League title. Gundogan's leadership and consistency is something that the blue half of Manchester will be relying on moving forward. What do you think of Ilkay Gundogan's return to Manchester City? And how well do you see him performing for the citizens this time? Also, do you think Manchester City will be able to stop Arsenal again this time? A penny for your thoughts.